Hello, 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 hello. Hi. Welcome back. Welcome back. Happy Wednesday. Winsday. I'm going to stop saying that. No, I'm not. How are y'all doing on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day? Listen, if you can see me and hear me okay, please just give this video a thumbs up. Drop a number 1 in the comments. The one thing that I would hate is for me to go through all this good that I have for you today about how the internet is paying ordinary experts every single day. I would hate for you to miss any of that. So if you can see me, if you can hear me, and everything is all good in your neighborhood, just give this video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section. Listen, this conversation is going to be good. It's going to be good. So, welcome back to another episode of Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott. I am the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit. We are an online education platform, and we are designed to help women turn their existing skills into coaching income, digital products, and online businesses so they can earn more, depend less on traditional employment, and design a life on their terms. Listen, if you haven't already, I want you to go get your notebook and your pens or whatever it is that you take notes on. Pop open a notes app on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad, on your tablet. What are those things called? The notefuls, the digital tablet. What are those things called? Let me know in the comment section. Whatever it is you take notes on, go get it. Go get your water, your tea, your coffee, whatever it is that you're sipping on. Get comfortable, settle in, stay with me for a while. Text the link to this video to a friend who keeps saying that she wants to do something for herself. Text the link to this video in the group chats, because what I am going to walk through with you over the next, 30, 40, however long this thing lasts, minutes. This thing, what I'm getting ready to talk about, it has the potential to completely change the way that you think about your income, okay? I'm not going to be talking about your budget. I'm not going to be talking about your expenses. I'm talking about your income. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. And I want to start this conversation with something that's kind of crazy. Right now, as I am sitting here, and as you're sitting there, someone is getting paid for knowing how to organize a walk-in closet. Literally. Somebody right now is getting paid a premium for knowing how to organize a walk-in closet. Someone is earning consistent income because they know how to write performance reviews that don't make a grown man cry. Someone's getting paid for that. Someone is collecting payment because they understand how to navigate a FAFSA appeal. And somebody out there is building a 4-figure monthly income from a skill they use every single Wednesday at their job and have never once thought to put a price tag on it. Listen, that's not a hypothetical. That is a Wednesday, Winsday. That's today. The internet is paying ordinary people every single day. And a lot of us are watching from the sidelines and we're wondering how they got in. And I want to let you in. I want to let you in on this. So here's where I'm going to go with this today. I'm going to show you what this looks like in the real world. I'm going to give you some examples. I'm going to give you the evidence, and I'm going to give you categories of people who are already doing this, okay? And then I'm going to show you why this moment is different from every other time that you've heard someone say start a side hustle. And then lastly, I want to talk about you. I want to talk about you. I want to talk about what you already have. I want to talk about what you already have. I want to talk about what it's worth. I want to talk about what's available to you right now if you are ready to start moving in this thing. Does that sound good with you? If that sounds good to you, go ahead and drop a number 2 in the chat. So stay with me for this conversation. And per usual, I want to start off with a question. And again, I want you to always think about these questions before you just come back with a quick answer, okay? The question that I want to ask today is, when was the last time that someone asked you for advice at work and you just gave it? When was the last time someone texted you and asked you for advice, whether that was a family member, a friend, someone from your community, from your church? When was the last time someone sent you a message and asked you for advice and you just gave it? And this wasn't a consultation. This wasn't a strategy session. They didn't send you an invoice. This was someone, whether it was at work or in your personal life, they just caught you in the hallway, or they sent you a Slack message, or they pulled you aside, or they sent you a text and they said, hey, you always know what to do about this. And then you helped them, and you helped them for free, and you did it in under 10 minutes. And how often does that happen to you though? Is it weekly? Is it a few times a month? How often does that happen to you? Because what if I told you that the thing that these people keep coming to you about is the thing that someone on the internet is looking for right now, and they're willing to pay a premium for it? What if I told you that? I think a lot of us have been trained to see our skills and our knowledge as just part of what we do. Particularly in a professional setting, we just look at it as that's part of our job. Like, that's what you get paid for at work. So it doesn't feel like it belongs to you. It feels like it belongs to your role. It feels like it belongs to your job title. It feels like it belongs to your job description, to your company, to your manager, to your email signature. But those skills, that knowledge, that expertise, the experience, those instincts, that judgment that you've built over years of solving the same types of problems over and over and over again, all of that, hear me when I say, it belongs to you and it travels with you. So whether or not you get promoted or laid off or burned out, or you are just finally ready to do something different, your skills, your knowledge, your expertise, it goes wherever you go. Your skills are not a perk of your job. They're an asset. And assets, every asset has income potential. And that is the lens that I want you to view this entire conversation through, okay? I don't want you to take this conversation as a how do I make extra money conversation, because that's a question that leads you to delivery apps like Grubhub and Instacart. That is a question that leads you to survey sites. And that's a question that ultimately leads you to a whole lot of exhaustion. So the question that I want you to walk away from this conversation asking is, who needs what I already know? And what would they pay to access what I already know? It's a completely different question, right? And that question is going to lead to a different outcome. So I want to give you some examples. I'm not going to give you names, but these are real situations. These are real women, and these are real outcomes. These are real results, okay? Because when we hear people are making money online, most people picture influencers, right? They picture somebody who's TikTok famous, or, a big YouTuber, or a LinkedIn influencer. Like, a lot of people picture someone with a ring light and 1 million followers and a product line and a full production team behind every single video, and that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a woman who has spent 12 years in HR, she's not at the VP level. She is not a keynote speaker at a national conference. She managed employee relations, handled difficult conversations, and was the person everyone came to when something went sideways, leftways, upways, and downways with a team member or a performance issue. This woman started a coaching business for first-time managers navigating their first performance conversation. And guess what? She charged $300 for 1 hour. She booked 4 clients in her first month from one LinkedIn post. That is 3, 6, 9, 12. That is $1,200 from one post, from one skill that she had been giving away for free at work for over a decade. Now, is this woman making 6 figures yet? No, but that's not the point. Like, that's not the point of this. The point is that she now has income that doesn't depend on whether or not her company hits its quarterly numbers. She now has income that doesn't pause when a hiring freeze starts. She now has income that exists because she chose to treat her knowledge and her skills and her experience and her expertise as an asset. Here's another example. If you're just joining, I'm walking through real life examples of ordinary women who are making money online right now. If you missed the first example, you just joining live, I encourage you to go back and watch the replay of this episode on my YouTube channel. So the next example I have is a woman who works in nonprofit development. So she did grant writing, donor relations, crafting the impact reports that made funders want to give more and give again. So this woman started offering grant writing workshops to small nonprofits that couldn't afford a full-time development director. One workshop was $1,000 per seat. 12 people would attend these things. That's $12,000 from a skill that she'd been using in the same building for 7 years. She didn't launch a brand. She didn't launch a website first. She started with her skills, and the money showed up because the need for that skill was already there. Here's another example. A registered nurse who started helping new nurses understand how to navigate the politics and paperwork of their first hospital position. She wasn't giving clinical advice or medical guidance. She was talking about or coaching on career navigation. She was talking about orientation survival. She was teaching how to advocate for yourself when you're brand new and overwhelmed and you're terrified of making a mistake that costs someone something. She created an online course and she priced it at $500. And she sold it to hundreds of nurses who found her on YouTube while searching how to survive your first year as a nurse at midnight after a brutal shift. Hundreds of people paying $500 for skills that she already had. And I'm going to share one more example because I think this is going to, I think this one might hit you just a little bit differently because this one might be a little bit more specific to some of you. So I talked to a woman who works in supply chain. So like logistics, procurement, you know, the kind of work that keeps entire companies running, but nobody puts on the cover of a glamour magazine. This is the kind of work she did. And this woman had spent nearly 20 years understanding how to navigate vendor relationships, prevent costly delays, and protect a company's bottom line when things went sideways globally. And in this line of work, my understanding is things go sideways all the time. So this woman started a podcast and she started talking about what she knew in the same casual way, in the same knowledgeable way that she talked to her coworkers and her colleagues. And then she started getting DMs from small business owners who were desperate to understand how to manage their own supply chains without a multi-million-dollar enterprise system behind them. So she started offering consulting calls and she was charging $500 an hour. The skill that made her indispensable at work made her sought after online. Listen, these are the same skills. This is the same number of years experience, but it's an entirely different stream of income. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Now, here's what I want you to notice about every single one of those stories, every single one of those examples that I just gave. Every single one of them, the woman did not invent a new skill. None of them went back to school. None of them had to pivot into an industry that they didn't know anything about. What these women did is they packaged their own skills that they had already paid the price for. They paid the price in years, in failures, in late nights, and frustrations, dealing with clients and hard lessons. And they paid for it in the kind of wisdom that you can only learn by doing the thing. So they packaged those skills that they already paid the price for, and they made them available to someone who needed to learn it faster than they did. That is the whole business model. And the thing about it is these women are not unique. They're not more magical than you are. Because you have skills, knowledge, expertise, and experience that someone is searching for literally right now. You're just not visible yet. They can't find you because you're not there. And I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, Nick, that's great for them, but what I do is not that interesting. My skills are not that special. I'm not doing anything that's worth paying for. And I want to offer you a completely different way to look at this. Your skills do not have to be rare to be valuable. They just have to be rare to the person who needs them. A first-year teacher doesn't need advice from an educational policy researcher. A first-year teacher needs advice from someone who just survived year 3 and figured out how to stop dreading Monday mornings. A newly promoted manager doesn't need a Harvard Business Review article. A newly promoted manager needs someone who has been in the exact seat and knows what it feels like to manage a person who was your peer last week. So the distance between where someone is and where you already are, that's not nothing, y'all. Because that distance has value. That distance is someone else's learning curve. And people pay to shorten their learning curves every single day. I'm sure you've paid for it at some point in your life. And here's what the internet changed that we still haven't fully grasped yet. Because before digital platforms existed, if you were an HR specialist in Denver, you could advise the people around you, right? Your network, your industry contacts, and the folks in your city. And that was your reach. But now you can advise the HR professional who's in Atlanta, Georgia, who found you at 11 o'clock at night while stress eating on her couch because she has a conversation with her boss tomorrow that she has no idea how to navigate. You can now reach the project manager who's all the way in London across the pond, who stumbled across your content and realized for the first time that someone else understands exactly her work and they understand exactly what it feels like. The internet didn't create expertise. The internet didn't create skills. It created reach. And reach created income potential that has nothing to do with your zip code. It has nothing to do with your company's budget. It has nothing to do with whether or not your manager is in a good mood or whether or not someone likes you enough to nominate you for a promotion. Hello, somebody. Hello, thanks for joining. I see the love on YouTube. Listen, before we go any further, I just want to take a beat because I know what some of you are doing right now. You are listening. You are tracking with what I'm saying. You are nodding your head. You're like, yes, girl. You might even be taking notes. I hope you're taking notes. But at the same time, there's a little tiny voice in the back of your head doing a very thorough job of explaining why this is a great idea for somebody else. And I think that little tiny voice deserves a little bit of airtime here on Nick at Noon, because I have heard that voice too. And I have heard it from hundreds of women that I have worked with, and it says very specific things. It says things like, I wouldn't even know where to start. By the time I figured this out, my kids are going to be in college. I've looked into doing this before, and it felt overwhelming, so I gave up. I'm already stretched thin. I don't have the bandwidth to add one more thing. The market is too saturated. Who would choose me? Does any of that, what I just said, sound familiar to you? Let's talk about it one at a time. We're talking to the little voice. We're talking back to the little teeny tiny voice today. Voice says, I don't know where to start. Okay, let's talk about it, because this one is interesting, because it sounds like it's a logistics problem, but it's not. It's a clarity problem. When you don't know where to start, it's usually because you haven't yet figured out what you're building clearly enough. You haven't identified who you serve. You haven't identified what problem you solve or what outcome looks like for them. And that is not a personal failure. That's just part of the process that comes before you start. And it's a workable problem, and it has a solution. The reason most people stay stuck in I don't know where to start is because they try to solve a clarity problem by taking action. So you'll start building a website before you even know what you're offering. You'll start posting before you know what you're talking or who you're talking to. And then when it doesn't work, you conclude that you weren't cut out for this. And that's not what happened. What happened is you tried to build the house before you drew the blueprint. So clarity comes first, structure comes second, and then action is third. And it's always in that order. So the voice says, the market is too saturated. Who would choose me? Can I offer you a different perspective on market saturation? Because I think we've been looking at market saturation completely backwards. Because when a market has a lot of participants, it means a lot of demand. No one's going to enter a market where there's no buyers, right? So saturation isn't a sign that there's no room for you. It's a sign that there are a lot of people that are already paying for the thing that you want to sell. Listen, the coaches and consultants who struggle, they're not the ones in crowded markets. They're the ones who are too vague about what they do and who they serve. So you don't need to be the only person doing this. You don't need to invent something brand new. You just have to be the right person for your specific client. And your specific client is looking for someone who sounds like them, who has lived what they're living, who can speak to their exact situation. And there is no version of the market that's so crowded that your specific combination of experience, perspective, and voice is already taken. We've heard it before. You are you, and that is your superpower. So the little voice says, I'm already stretched too thin and I don't have any bandwidth. Ain't nobody got time for that. And this one I take seriously because it's real. Like, you don't imagine your calendar. You are not imagining how little of a margin you have at the end of every single full week with everything else that comes with a full life. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that building a second stream of income takes no time, because it does. It does take time. But I want to challenge the assumption that might be holding up this concern. And that assumption is that you need to have abundant free time before you can start to build anything. But the reality is, the women who build multiple streams of income along their full-time jobs, they don't find time. They don't find it. They protect their time, and there's a difference. Because finding time implies there's extra time laying around somewhere that's waiting for you to claim it. But protecting your time, it means you decide in advance what building this is worth to you, and then you carve out the space deliberately. We're talking about 5 to 7 hours a week to start. I'm not talking about getting up every morning at 5 a.m. or working every weekend. 5 to 7 intentional, deliberate hours. And here's what I know from the women that I have worked through this with. The hours, when you invest in them consistently over the course of 90 days, those hours produce something that starts generating income for you. And when income starts to come in, the psychology of time shifts, because suddenly it's not a side project anymore. You have a business, and businesses start getting treated like businesses. Little voice says, I've tried this before and it didn't work. And this one right here might be the most important one for me to address, because if you've started something and then you stopped and you're watching this, that means there's a part of you that hasn't given up hope in this yet. And I want to speak directly to that part. Most starts fail, not because the person wasn't right for the start, okay? Most starts fail because the approach wasn't right for where the person was in their journey. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. Maybe you started with the wrong product. Maybe you built an audience that wasn't specific enough. Maybe you tried to skip the clarity stage and went straight to execution, and then ran out of gas, ran out of fuel, ran out of energy when it didn't immediately produce results. If that's what happens, none of that means that this isn't for you. It means that your last attempt taught you something that your next one gets to benefit from. Because the people who succeed in this, they aren't people who never failed at it. The people who succeed in this are the ones who didn't let the failure become the final chapter for them. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. How are y'all doing on this beautiful, beautiful day? I am hot. That's why I keep moving my hair around. So I want to talk about something that professional spaces don't love to say out loud. And that is, your job is not a guarantee. And I am not saying that to scare you. And I'm not predicting anything about your specific situation either. I'm saying it because a lot of us are operating as if loyalty and strong performance automatically creates job safety. And the last several years have shown us repeatedly that that is not how this thing works. Good employees get laid off at good companies every single day. Entire departments are getting restructured when leadership changes or a merger happens or a new CEO comes in with a different vision. Industries are shifting, budgets are tightening, priorities are realigning in directions that have nothing to do with your work ethic. And none of that means that you did anything wrong. It means the structure that you're inside of has factors that are completely beyond your control, and those factors can change your financial life overnight. When your only income is tied to one employer, you don't have financial stability. You have financial dependence. And dependence and stability look the same from the outside when things are going well for you, but then they feel very different when they're not. I want to just offer a different way to think about multiple streams of income, because I think we've been told and sold a story about multiple streams of income that has kept a lot of us waiting. And the story that we have been told and sold is that a second stream of income is a luxury. It is something for people who have already, quote unquote, made it. That multiple streams of income are nice to have after you've paid off your debt, after you've maxed out your 401k, after you have saved 6 months of expenses and reached some invisible threshold of financial readiness. And that mindset, that thinking, has cost people years. Because here's a completely different way to look at it. A second stream of income isn't what you build after you've reached safety. It's part of how you build safety in the first place. Multiple streams of income are not a luxury, they are insurance. Think about the things that we do put insurance on. We insure our cars, we insure our homes, we insure our health, we even insure our lives. And we pay for it every single month. And sometimes we're paying a whole lot of money to insure these things. But we're paying monthly to protect ourselves against a risk that might not ever happen except for life insurance. That is the only guaranteed one right there, okay? But our income, the point is, our income, this is the thing that funds every single one of those other insurance payments. We leave our income exposed to one single point of failure. We leave it exposed to one company, one manager, one quarterly review, one reorganization meeting, one decision made above your pay grade by someone who doesn't even know your name. Listen, when it comes to income diversification, a second stream of income is insurance. And just like every other type of insurance, you want to have that insurance before you need it. You don't want to get this insurance for your income when your position is getting eliminated. You don't want to get it when you're 3 months from the wire and trying to figure out what to do next. You want to do it now. You want to do it while things are stable. You want to do it while you have the mental capacity and the financial cushion to build something that's deliberate instead of something that's desperate. So here's a perspective that I want you to carry out of this conversation, out of this part of the conversation. And that is, your 9 to 5 was never designed to be your only financial plan. It was designed to be one input. So the assumption that one employer would handle your present state, your retirement state, your kids' education, your own sense of safety, the assumption that one employer is supposed to handle all of that, that was always too much weight for one relationship. We were just never thought to question that. And here's what I love about building a skills-based income stream specifically. It doesn't require you to quit your job to start. It doesn't require you to walk in on Monday morning with a resignation letter and a leap of faith and absolutely no safety net. You can completely, totally, 100% build this alongside everything you already have. That's the piece that doesn't get emphasized enough, because this isn't an either or, it's a both and. You get to keep your job and you get to build a business. You let both of these things coexist until one of them is strong enough that you have real choices about what comes next for you, for your family, for your future, and your legacy. The women that I'm in community with who are doing this, most of them still have jobs. Some of them have great jobs that they like. And they built a second stream of income because they understood that loving your job and protecting your financial future are not the same goal. They're not building second streams of income alongside their jobs because they hate what they're doing, because you can love your work and still want more options. You can be grateful for your salary and still want income you can control. Those things are not in conflict with each other. And before I continue on this conversation, I just want to punctuate something here. Because some of you watching this have been living in the I know I need to do something different space for a really long time. You've thought about it. You might have even started to do something. Maybe you got busy and then you stopped. Maybe you talked yourself into it and then very convincingly talked yourself right back out of it. And that cycle happens because the vision is clear, but the road to get there isn't. That cycle doesn't happen because you're not ready. Because you can see the destination, you just don't have a map. So I want to talk about a map next. Can I talk about the map? Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. So when I talk about a skills-based income stream, I want to get specific about one vehicle in particular, and it's coaching. I'm not talking about therapy or consulting in the traditional board rate Fortune 500 retainer sense. I'm not talking about life coaching in the overly vague, generic, what are your values way that might have made you raise an eyebrow at the entire category of coaching. I'm talking about professional coaching, knowledge-based, outcome-focused coaching, where you guide someone through a specific transformation using the experience and the skills that you've already built through your own career and your life experiences. And before you tell me that coaching isn't for you, I want you to stay with me just for a few more minutes, because the resistance that I hear most consistently, it sounds like this. I'm not certified. I get emailed that question all the time. I don't have a personal brand. I'm not an influencer, and I have no interest in becoming one. Good, me either. My field isn't glamorous enough or sexy enough for anyone to pay to learn about it. Who am I to coach someone on this? And I want to, again, address each one of those things directly, okay? So first up is the certification. Coaching certificates exist and they have value in certain contexts, so I'm not dismissing them. But the truth about knowledge-based coaching is that your credential is your track record, not your certificate. So again, when a first-year teacher pays for guidance from someone who has survived year 3, she isn't asking to see a coaching credential. She's asking, have you been where I am right now, and did you make it through? And if the answer is yes, guess what? That's your credential. The personal brand question. You don't need a personal brand to start a coaching business. You need clients, and clients come from conversations. So posting content online is one way to start those conversations, but reaching out to your existing network is another. So being visible in the communities where your ideal client already spends their time together, that's what this is about. A personal brand is what you build over time through consistency. And by the way, you already have a personal brand, whether you're online or not. So a personal brand is not the entry ticket to this. Let's talk about the glamorous and sexy professions and skills, because I want to talk about something that is holding a lot of women back in this, because we tend to undervalue the skills that feel ordinary to us precisely because they're ordinary to us. Like, they're ordinary. We've been doing this thing for years and it feels like second nature. And when something is second nature to you, it's hard to remember that it's completely foreign to someone else. The people who need your skills aren't looking for glamour. They're looking for someone who has already solved the problem that they're stuck on. That is your qualification. Who am I to coach? Let's talk about that one, because this is the one that stops the most women, and I want to spend just a minute right here because it deserves it. You are not positioning yourself as the world's foremost authority. I'm not telling you to claim that you know everything. You're not omniscient, right? You're positioning yourself as someone who is far enough ahead to help someone and pull someone forward. There are people right now behind you on the same path as you, but they're behind you, who are searching for someone exactly like you. They're searching for someone who gets it, someone who has been through what they're standing at the beginning of. They're looking for someone who can say, I know what that feels like right now, and here's what helped me. It might help you too. The most effective coaches aren't always the people with the highest credentials or the most prestigious titles. They're the people with the most relatable journey and the most practical framework for getting from A to B to C to Z. Okay? So you don't need to be at the top of the mountain. You just need to be further up the trail. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. Now, let me talk about what this looks like in practice, because I think sometimes we stay vague about what coaching is, and that vagueness is part of what keeps people from taking it seriously as a business model. So I want to be specific. A coaching engagement at its most basic state, it looks like this. You have a defined client, someone who is navigating a specific type of problem or transition that sits squarely in the territory of your skills. That's number one, defined client. You have a defined outcome. Your defined outcome isn't, I help women feel better about their careers. Your defined outcome is something a little bit more concrete than that. Something like, I help first-year managers get through their first 90 days without burning bridges or burning out. Defined client, defined outcome, you have a process. So a series of conversations, maybe you have some frameworks or exercises that are woven into that, and you move your client from where they are to the outcome that they came for. That is it. This is not mysterious. It is not this elevated, inaccessible business that only certain people are allowed to do. It is structured guidance from someone who has the skills that the client needs. And here's what most people don't realize about this delivery model. You don't have to do it all one-on-one. One-on-one coaching is a great starting point because it's the most direct path to understanding your clients. But it's not the only format. You can work with groups, which is often more efficient with your time and often builds powerful community among your clients. You can create a curriculum-based container where your clients move through structured content alongside live coaching calls. You can offer intensive half-day or single session formats for people who want deep guidance without a longer commitment. There's no single right way to package this, y'all. The right way is the one that delivers the outcome that your client needs in a format that works for you and the client. And here's the piece that I want to say very clearly because I think this matters. You don't have to know all of this before you start. I know I just said a lot of stuff, but you don't have to know all of it before you start. Your first coaching offer doesn't have to be perfectly optimized. It doesn't have to scale into this beautiful business on the first day. Your first offer just has to be clear enough that a client can say yes, and it has to be good enough to get them a result. That is the bar when you're starting in this, and then you refine from there. Every round of clients, it teaches you something that you cannot learn any other way. Now, let me talk about why coaching is particularly a great choice for building your second stream of income, because it's not the only option, but it has some advantages that are worth talking about, okay? Number one, low startup costs. Unlike a product-based business or a brick and mortar or a franchise or traditional service businesses, a coaching business can be started with essentially no overhead. All you need is a way to take a payment, a way to communicate with your clients, and the skills you already have. That's all you need. You don't need an office. You don't need a team. You don't need inventory. Coaching has a very high margin. So when you deliver coaching through your own time and your own skills, your profit margin is remarkably high compared to most other business models. Because you're not buying materials, you're not managing a warehouse, you're not paying 10 people to fulfill an order. The primary input in this is your skills. and that doesn't depreciate. Coaching has compounding value. Every client you work with, it sharpens your understanding of who your client is. It sharpens your understanding of your methodology and your ability to create results. You get better at delivering your skills the more you deliver them. Your outcomes improve, your case studies build, your confidence compounds. The asset increases in value as you use it. I challenge you to name me another business model where what I just said is true. And here's the piece that is genuinely underestimated when we talk about coaching for women specifically. Coaching is one of the fastest paths to a real stream of income because it leverages what you've already invested years into building. Every other income model requires you to start learning something you don't know yet. Coaching says, you know what? Let me take what you already know and let's make it worth more. That is a completely different starting position because you're not starting from zero. You're starting from a foundation that you've been building your entire life. Now, let me be transparent for a minute because what I'm getting ready to say is very, 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 very important. Coaching is not a get rich quick strategy. Coaching is not a passive income machine that runs by itself next week. Coaching is a business, and building any real business requires consistency, it requires clarity, and it requires work. So what it offers isn't ease. What it offers is ownership. It offers ownership of your income, ownership of your schedule, ownership of who you serve and how you serve them. Coaching offers ownership of what your skills are worth on your terms, not on your employer's timeline. And that's something a bonus check can give. That is not something a bonus check can give you. Now, let me talk about timing real quick because this concept isn't new. You have probably heard some version of monetize your skills before, right? Maybe you've even started something at some point and it didn't take off the way that you hoped. And I want to acknowledge that. The first time you hear an idea and the right time to act on it aren't always in the same moment. But I also want to be honest with you about why right now deserves your attention in a way that's different. Because we are in a moment where demand for human expertise delivered through human connection, it is climbing. The supply of undifferentiated information keeps multiplying. It is climbing. People are craving because the supply of undifferentiated information, it just keeps growing. And here's why that's interesting. It's because AI tools are getting better at delivering information. You can ask AI almost anything and receive a well-structured, competent response in seconds, right? And that is extremely useful for a lot of things. But what AI cannot do is look at your specific situation, your industry, your manager, your team, your dynamic, and your next step specifically. AI cannot hold you accountable. AI can't see the pattern you're missing because you're too close to it. AI cannot tell you, yes, you can trust yourself on this one in a way that sticks because it came from someone who actually has been there. Coaching is becoming more valuable precisely because information has become more abundant. Precisely because information has become more abundant. And let me say that again because I had a little interruption. Coaching is becoming more valuable precisely because information has become more abundant. People don't need more answers. They need someone who can help them take action on the answers that they already have. They need accountability. They need perspective. They need real guidance from someone who's been where they're trying to go. Listen, information is free. Wisdom is what people pay for. And wisdom only comes from experience. It comes from your experience, your lived experience. And I want to say something else about this moment in time that I think is specific to the women who are watching this. We are in a generation of women who were raised to believe that working hard and doing the right thing would take care of us. And a lot of you did work hard. And a lot of you did the right things. You got education, you put in the hours, you navigated systems that weren't always designed to support you, and you made it work. And there's a very specific exhaustion that comes from doing all of that and still feeling like your financial safety is fragile. Still feeling like it could all shift with one bad quarter or one leadership change or one reorganization that nobody saw coming. And let me tell you something, that is not a failure of your effort. That is a structural reality. And the response to a structural reality isn't to work harder inside of that structure. The response is to build something outside of it that you own. And I want to be clear, because this isn't about walking away from your job or your career. Most of the women who build income alongside their professional lives, they do not abandon what they built, they just deepen it. Because when your financial safety isn't entirely dependent on your employer, your relationship with your work changes because you stop taking things personally that were never personal. You stop staying in situations past their expiration date because you're afraid of what leaving would mean financially. You show up differently when you know that this job, as good as your job might be, you show up differently when you know that it isn't your only option. And that is a shift in the power dynamic of employer to employee. And it changes everything about how you professionally operate. And the other thing we're talking about is the shift happening in how professional women are thinking about their careers right now. Because for a long time, the message was real clear. Get a degree, get a job, climb the ladder, collect pension, retire at 65. And that model isn't just outdated. For a lot of us, it was never even fully accessible to begin with. And for many of us who did access it, it didn't deliver the safety or the fulfillment that it promised. The women that I see building income alongside their jobs aren't doing it because they failed the traditional path. They're doing it because they've succeeded at the traditional path long enough to clearly see that it has a ceiling. Because you have a degree, you have the title, you have a great salary, and you're sitting in that salary and you're thinking, you know what, is this it? Is this the entire plan? And that's not a critique of your title, because your title might be excellent, but it was never supposed to be the whole picture. Here's what I believe, and it's the belief that drives everything that I'm building here at Her Income Edit. The most financially safe women, they aren't the ones with the highest salary. They're the ones whose income doesn't depend on a single person's decision about her worth. Not her CEO, not her manager, not the board, not the economic conditions in her specific sector. Her income is flowing. The most financially safe women, her income is flowing from her skills, and her skills belong to her. And she's built at least one channel through which those skills generate income that she controls, and that is the goal. This isn't just about more money, though the money is real and it matters, and I never minimize it around here. This is about options, stability, and the kind of confidence that your financial future doesn't evaporate when your company announces a restructure. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. So, a lot of you have been sitting in the I know I need to do something different space for a long time now. You know your skills have valuable. You know your skills have value. You know one stream of income isn't enough. You know other women are doing this and you're not lacking the capability. Like you know that these women don't have anything special that you don't have. You might just be missing the structure. You know this. So that gap between knowing and doing, though, is never about talent. It is never about whether or not you have enough skills or whether or not your experience is valuable enough. The gap between knowing and doing is about having a clear path and accountability and someone in your corner who can help you take what you already know and actually build it into something that pays you. And I want to talk about something that I think gets skipped over in a lot of conversations about entrepreneurship and income building. And that is community matters more than most people care to admit. There is a version of building a business that is very isolating, that is very lonely. And when you're learning everything yourself, when you're figuring out every step alone, when you're celebrating wins quietly by yourself and carrying all the hard parts of this with nobody who gets it, that is a slower build. And it's a lot harder on you emotionally than it needs to be. Listen, I've been doing this for a few years now. And the women that I see move the fastest, they're the women who are surrounded by other women who are in it with them. Now, they're not moving recklessly, they're moving purposefully. And when I say, and they're with other women who can say, you know what? I felt the exact same thing last week. When you're surrounded by someone who can say, here's what I tried and what happened, when you're around someone who can say you are closer to this than you think, it just changes the game. That is not just a nice to have. That is infrastructure. Because when you're building this thing alongside a community of women who are on the same path, that is one of the most undervalued elements of getting a business off the ground faster and more quickly. Because it replaces years of trial and error with shared learning. It replaces the isolation and the loneliness with something that actually feels good to show up for. And that right there, what I just described, is by design inside of Ignite. That is exactly what I built Ignite to do. Ignite is my 12-week group coaching program for professional women who are ready to build a skills-based coaching business. So over 12 weeks, you will go from knowing you have something to offer to having a defined offer your clients. You will have your first clients, and you will have a methodology for delivering your knowledge and your skills in a way that creates consistent results for you. Ignite is not a course that you're going to watch at 2 a.m. and never finish. Ignite is a program. It is a program with me. It is a program with a cohort of women who are building alongside you. It is a program with accountability that is woven into the fabric and the fiber of this entire program and every single week. And I want to be direct about who this is for. This is for the woman who is done thinking about it. Ignite is for the woman who's ready to stop watching other people do the things she knows that she's capable of doing. Ignite is for the woman who wants to look at her financial picture in 4 months and see something that she built herself on her terms. Applications for the next cohort are open right now. And I want to be honest with you about how Ignite works. It's a small group, and I make it intentionally small because the quality of what we build together depends on the attention that I can give each person in the room. So when the cohort is full, it closes. So if you have been thinking about this, today is the moment for you to move. And it's not because I'm pressuring you. It's because you've been telling yourself that you're ready for a long time. And at some point, the decision has to match that feeling. And here's what happens when you apply, okay? You're going to fill out the application on my website at herincomeedit.com/ignite. I am going to personally review it. If your application is a fit, you will be invited to a strategy call. We are going to have a conversation. We're going to look at what you bring. We're going to talk about what you're building, and we're going to talk about whether or not Ignite is the right structure for where you are right now. There will be no pressure, no pitch. We're just going to have a conversation. And if we're aligned and you're ready, then we're going to build this together. So you can head over to my website at herincomeedit.com/ignite to apply, or you can click the link down in the description. And I want to close with something. Listen, the women who are building income from their skills online are not more talented than you. They don't have connections that you don't have. They didn't stumble onto a platform that was handed to them or a strategy that nobody else knows about. The women who are making money online from their skills, they made a decision. They decided that their knowledge had value beyond the walls of their employer. And they stopped giving it away and started building with it. And they found the right support to do it smarter and faster than they would have alone. You are watching this video for a reason. Your skills have been someone else's salary for long enough. It's time they start becoming yours. So I want you to head over to my website again at herincomeedit.com/ignite, or you can just click the link down in the description to get all the information and apply. I hope to see your application come through. I hope to be working with some of you in this next cohort. Cohort kicks off on August 10th. So that's about a week and a half away. Yeah, thanks so much for popping in and out of today's episode. I always appreciate all of the love and attention, and your presence is always felt. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, turn your bell notifications on so you do not miss a beat. My name is Nick Scott. This has been another episode of Nick at Noon. I am here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon Mountain Time. And I will see y'all in the next one.